Good afternoon. This webinar offers closed captioning. To enable closed captioning, click on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred method. Welcome to the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection webinar. Please note any website or email that I mentioned will be posted in the chat. For those seeking business license assistance, you can visit us here at City Hall in the Small Business Center or call 312-74-GO-BIZ. Also, business license can be applied for or renewed online at chicagobusinessdirect.org. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. To learn more about this program, please visit chicago.gov/business education. This webinar is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. We would like to encourage all attendees to ask questions and use the chat box. There will be a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. Today's webinar is entitled Grow Your Small Business with Grants. At this time, I will turn this webinar over to Nina for us to begin.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Very excited to be here. My name is Nina Inamudia, and I am the Director of the Chicago Recovery Plan Initiative for the Department of Planning and Development, which is a very long title, but a very cool title because I get to help the city of Chicago in its recovery from COVID-19. And I will start sharing my screen now. All right, so today I'm going to take you through basically the outline of the Chicago Recovery Plan. Can everybody see my slides? Hopefully, yes. I'm going to take you all through kind of yes, okay. I see people saying yes. I'm going to try to concentrate on the slides, and also if I can answer questions in the chat, I will. So I'm going to take you through the framework of the Chicago Recovery Plan as it pertains to the DPD. And then I'll hand it off to my colleagues who have some other exciting grant programs that are not based in Chicago Recovery Plan, but are really crucial to helping Chicagoans all throughout the city. All right, first up, here is just a little profile of the team here for the Chicago Recovery Plan. All of my team members have various responsibilities, some related to data and visualization, some related to data management, some related to specific programs within our portfolio. And so and I know you'll get these slides afterwards. So if you ever need anything related to a specific program, one of our active programs, you can come to my team right here. I'm really proud of the team we've been able to create and excited for all of them to be doing this work. I wanted to also go over, before I even get into our specific programs, our values. The Chicago Recovery Plan team came about because of COVID-19 and thinking about how do we undo some of the harm that was exacerbated by COVID-19 in our communities. And so what we did is my core team sat down and had a retreat and thought about, okay, what are our values? What are our mission? What's our vision? What are our goals? And so I just wanted to kind of give you an expert of our values. And this helps to kind of level set the types, when we make decisions, how we're making them. So our values are equitable. We want to make equitable decisions, as in we're focusing on creating opportunities for society's most vulnerable populations and historically marginalized groups. Again, statistically, these groups that were already marginalized and already underserved were hit even harder because of COVID-19, right? And so we want to make sure that we're making equitable decisions to get the resources to the groups who actually need it. We want to be people-centered. So that means prioritizing community impact over what's easy or low-hanging fruit. So you may have there may be a really great proposal, but is it people-centered? Is it community-focused? Those are the types of things that we're always having conversations. Any decisions we make, we want to make sure we're being innovative. So finding simple yet creative solutions to solving problems. When you have different types of funding sources, one from the federal government, one from a social impact bond, there are lots of rules and regulations that that most people don't know about, and nor should you be concerned with. But we always have to navigate and be innovative in how we make decisions in order to make sure that we are getting to our destination, but also getting there more efficiently and effectively. Data informed. So my team is very much centered in data. We want to make sure that our data points reinforce our intuition and also the community's intuition, because you may feel something or think something, but do the data points back that up? And sometimes they don't always align, but just having that, asking those questions and evaluating that is really important to us. And then also we want to make sure they're lasting. Although the Chicago Recovery Plan program is temporary, we want to make sure that every innovative decision we make or a process improvement that we make is lasting in perpetuity. So that even though CRP is just my team now, that these things can be used by everybody in the department or everybody in the city eventually. And we want to show proof of concept for a lot of these programs because they are brand new. This is our money, how our money is allocated. So the Department of Planning and Development has $237 million. Almost every department within the city of Chicago has allocation of Chicago Recovery Plan funds. And Chicago Recovery Plan funds are a mix of ARP dollars or American Rescue Plan dollars, which comes from the federal government, and then also social impact bonds. So the city decided to create bonds and sell them to investors in exchange for doing economic development with a social impact. And so those dollars together makes up our $237 million budget. BACP got funding, there's a lot, DFSS got funding. There's lots of departments throughout the city that has funding. And then each of our departments, depending on our scope of work, see, for example, the Department of Transportation works in the right of way, DPD does not. So our money is not allocated to fixing roadways because that's not what we would usually do, right? You would go to CDOT. So every department has, either bond funds or ARP funds that deal with their scope of work. So also keep that in mind. Our 3 programs that we've already launched and which you may have already heard about are our community development grants, which I will definitely go into depth about, our Corridor Ambassador program, which is really exciting, where we're putting corridor ambassadors on the street. We have 29 corridors, 15 community areas, $5 million assigned to that. And then our public outdoor plazas or pop courts, where we take underutilized vacant land and repurpose it for a community gathering space. So we're doing 12 courts in 10 community areas for $6 million, which is great. That's just 3 of the 12 programs that we have under our belt. So first, I'll kind of go in a little bit of information of each. So the corridor ambassadors, you may have seen, and here's a map of where they are. They are meant to help increase pedestrian activity, safety, corridor vibrancy on various corridors throughout the city of Chicago. So they'll report emergencies, they'll enhance pedestrian experience, they'll promote safety, improve street cleanliness. Again, this is something that our department has never done, but because of the federal dollars, we were able to pilot it. And we think this is something that if we show proof of concept and show that this does indeed is people-centered and enhances the quality of life for our neighborhoods, that this is something that is worthy of lasting in perpetuity. Public outdoor plazas, again, public outdoor plazas will be a home, amenities for many communities who just don't have a public outdoor gathering space. So you're talking about public art and sculptures, space for community gatherings, interactive workshops and programming, safe playgrounds, and dedicated spaces for vendors. So we actually have been able to do 2 ribbon cuttings on our pop courts, 2 out of the 12 that we have in line. So Mahalia Jackson Court is actually at 79th and State. So it is also a transit-oriented development pop court. We're really excited about it. It's really beautiful. I hope that you all get a chance to go out there and see it. It's a really nice plaza. And then also we were able to open Pop Grove, which is in West Garfield. Again, really fantastic public place for people to gather. And I'll just show you a short video of Pop Grove. All right, so that's just Pop Grove. We're really excited. We have 3 more ribbon cuttings for our pop projects coming in the next few months. So if you get a chance to go visit one of those, you should. All right, and the meat of, I'm sure what everybody is interested in is our community development grants. We've been able to distribute about 64 grants, totaling about $35 million, which is really, really exciting. So this program is actually modeled after NOF, and my colleague Jim Harbin will be speaking after me about the NOF program. But our program is slightly different in a few ways. It's one of our most popular grant programs, and we've actually made a universal application so that you don't have to go to 5 different places for getting grants. You can go to one, and that's one of the things that my team is working on, not only about external resiliency, but internal resiliency. How do we make our processes easier to access for the public? Over the last 3 rounds, we've had 3 rounds in 2022, we have gotten more and more applications. This last round, which closed August 19th, we got 621 applications, but the number, although the number of applications like doubled or tripled, but the amount of staff has not. And our success rate, it's harder to get into Northwestern or the University of Chicago, or it's harder to get into our grant program than it is to get into Northwestern and the University of Chicago. We have a very high influx of applications, which means that it is more accessible, but also, we don't want to just give people money just for the sake of giving them money. We want to make sure they're successful. So we're also managing expectations as far as like, yes, we get 600, over 600 applications, but we can't handle 600 grantees. And nor are all those applications viable or good. So we want to make sure that we're making sure that people's expectations fall within a realm of responsiveness as far as like, yes, you may have applied, just to try again, improve your application, things like that. And this is where we can see concentrated, just based off of the community development grant so far, where we've been able to put a lot of our money. Again, equity is a big part of our strategy. So we do make sure to prioritize proposals that lead to, again, giving the most vulnerable populations and historically marginalized groups the most resources. And so that's how this program works. So, we definitely prioritize things, within certain census, like low to moderate income census tracts, or if you're by transit, or if you happen to be by a Department of Housing proposal, or if you're in a West Southwest community area. Those are things, again, because remember, this is recovery from COVID-19 money. And so we are, again, prioritizing communities that have been hardest hit by COVID. So this particular grant is for expansion or renovation, new locations for businesses, or new constructions on vacant properties. The grant amounts, there's 2 tracks. There's a large track, which is $250,000 up to $5 million. And there's a small track from from $0, well, I guess not zero. We wouldn't give out a $0 grant, from $1 to $250,000. And the grant cannot exceed more than 75% of your cost. Applications are open to anybody who has commercial, mixed use, or light manufacturing. We do not do 100% housing. Again, my colleagues at the Department of Housing have their own allocation of funds. So if you have a housing project, 100% housing project, there's resources on their website. You can check the city's website with all the funding resources. Just because DPD doesn't, our scope of work doesn't fit what you're trying to do, doesn't mean that there's not resources out there for you. We're looking for business owners, entrepreneurs, property owners, and community developers, applicants from all over Chicago. So this is how it's different from some of our other programs where it's either tied to TIF or tied to a different, to a certain location. This one is citywide. And then eligible expenses, again, you can read through that list, but if you build something, you turn it upside down, anything that would fall out is usually not covered because it comes from a specific source of funds. It is brick and mortar improvements that we're able to cover. And again, we're giving priority to catalytic projects with strong local impact. So we're talking about job creation, amenities, and services that benefit the community, something that's not already there, like a grocery store, or some other amenity that's a coffee shop that's not necessarily in a community. Alignment with local community plans and community wealth building. So if you have a co-op model or something like that, we're looking for things like that, again, because equity is a core component of how these dollars are getting distributed. Projects located in historically disadvantaged areas that build upon existing city efforts like Invest Southwest. We're prioritizing those projects. And then we're also prioritizing projects that demonstrate momentum for a groundbreaking within the next 6 to 12 months. So, this funding is not, infinite, and it will not last forever. So we do need to prioritize projects that will be able to spend the money and start building in the next 6 to 12 months. And then site control is preferred, although it is not required. So some of our previous grant finalists, Magnifico Coffee in Avondale is great, and one of the first coffee shops in that neighborhood, and it is minority owned, Latinx owned. We're really proud of them. And then also Solvay City, which you may have heard of, is coming up with a second location. So again, we're trying to figure out how to revitalize some of these vacant storefronts, some of these vacant lots, and add businesses to places that they necessarily would not have been or where they shuttered. Overall, across all three of those programs, we hit the ground running in January, and now it's September. And, these are kind of maps of all of our projects mapped. 55% are located in low income communities. 65% of our grantees are located in what we call BIPOC communities, so majority minority communities. 38% are located in Invest Southwest communities, and 60% of our grantees are located in ETOD eligible areas. So they're near transit. And so I wanted to show this map to show, I'm not just saying that our values are our values, we are actually making sure that our values match where we're putting the funds. And that is very important to me and my team and the city, to actually be influencing and undoing the harm that was done by, historic racism, but then also COVID-19. We do have many more programs. We have about 12 programs under our whole bucket. I just talked about 3. We actually have 4 more coming online that I'll run through. Our community wealth building is about grant funding, thinking about different cooperative models so that community members can also own a piece of the community that they live in. We actually just released RFP, which is on our website, and I linked it here, and I know you'll get the slides after this, but that is live. We just released it on Monday. If you work in the community wealth building sphere, then you should go ahead and look at the RFP and see if you can apply. Our equitable transit-oriented development, again, thinking about how do we make sure that walkability, accessibility is something that is ingrained throughout the city. And so there'll also be an RFP for technical assistance for our grantees for this in the coming weeks. We have climate investment. So when we think about resiliency and sustainability, we will have a few different projects or grants related to that. We did just get a federal grant for $20 million for the African American Heritage Trail in Inglewood, which is really exciting. We'll have a neighborhood power project, a community infrastructure grant, and then we'll be doing some solar, but so more on that. And then we have a storefront activation where we're trying to, again, revitalize some of the vacant storefronts that already exist. And so be on the lookout for more information on requests for proposals regarding that in the coming months. I'll leave that here. If you want to go to our microsite, you can use this kind of QR code. And again, my name is Nina, and happy to answer any questions at the end. All right, I'll pass it on to Jim.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, can everybody see my screen yet?
I can see it, but it's on Zoom.
How about now?
Okay, yes, now I see PowerPoint. It's not full screen yet. There you go. Okay. Oh, it has the presenter.
I'm switching it up now.
Oh, okay. Okay, you good.
Thank you so much, Nina. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Harbin. I'm a deputy commissioner here with the Department of Planning and Development and manager of the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund grant program, which many of you have already heard of. If you haven't sensed it already through Nina's presentation, we are at a remarkable moment in time working in the Department of Planning and Development. There are a ton of resources out there for you as a small business to connect to. And there's a team in place on the 10th floor of City Hall that is enthusiastically ready to help and assist you to connect to these resources. Change. So This year, 2022, for our first round of NOF finalists, we actually did this ribbon cutting at a place called the Bronzeville Winery, which is located at 4400 South on Cottage Grove. It is one of 23 projects that we actually got to the finish line this year. And we're very proud of the fact that this program, like the rest of our programs, are learning from one another and getting better. And what we hope for in 2023 is to double that number. Given the number of grant programs out there, we should be looking at 40 opportunities to do this type of ribbon cutting and celebrating small businesses within our communities. Our vision is what has been all along, which is having a program that helps support and sustain strong, vibrant corridors on the south and southwest sides of Chicago. And if you notice those geographies, there's one quick distinction from the community development grant. We are solely focused on the south, southwest, and west sides of Chicago. This is a grant program that provides large grants and small grants, same as the Chicago Recovery Grant. Those large grants are over $250,000. The small grants are over $250,000. And the way we select our grants for the small program, there's a selection committee that we have that actually looks at every one of the applications. We also have our regional planners look over the applications, and we have city departments also vet those applications based on business affairs and consumer protection in terms of licensing, the water department, our finance department, to make sure that there's no bad actors out there. We want to make sure that the projects that are selected have every opportunity to get to the finish line. And even though this says NOF small, this is not a program designed for a quick roof fix or to add some drywall or to do some painting. Design is still going to matter. We're still looking for projects that are going to be catalytic in our communities, and we are selecting those projects as a result. If you want to really understand the distinction from the small program to the large program, not only is it over $250,000, but those projects that go over $250,000 also have to get city council approval. So that is going to require projects to actually socialize their projects within the community to make sure there's buy-in and actually be engaged with elected officials. So there's an opportunity to have a successful finish once it gets to city council. All of those projects will also go into a redevelopment agreement that says your programming is going to be there for a certain amount of time, and that you are also going to abide by the rules and regulations set by the city of Chicago. So just a little history about the program. This program was launched back in 2017, and it is designed, I think, quite cleverly to leverage downtown investment. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that in a second. In 2019, the program evolved in order to add bonuses. So, we can go ahead and improve how much we could support your project if you were hiring from within the community and if you lived within the community. And then in 2019, we also added technical assistance when it comes to lenders and it comes to construction managers and it comes to architects. 2021 and 2020, although we were hit with the pandemic in the middle of that time period, we still were able to do 2 rounds. We still were able to award projects. And we actually have emerged out of that now, really leaning into some lessons learned. And some of those lessons learned is that, many of the projects that we've selected have actually benefited from having the technical assistance, and particularly with construction managers. We also now have really leaned into this ideal that design really matters. And that design actually helps not only support projects being catalytic, but that design also helps support projects really understanding what their costs would be. And so I mentioned that the projects have been supported through the Central District. And this is a map kind of showing kind of where the concentration is in terms of where the funding for this program actually comes from. And if you want to look at it one way, when developers are building some of those skyscrapers that you see downtown, in order for them to go beyond the zoning that is set for those areas, there are fees that are required by the city of Chicago. Well, with the neighborhood opportunity bonus, those fees are not only taken in by the city, and not through taxes, these are fees paid for by the developers, 80% of that resource comes to the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. And I'm going to break that down in just a second. Another 10% goes into a program we call Adopt a Landmark. So landmarks across the city get a chance to have resources in order to help them bring back to life when developers are interested in doing so. And then there's another 10% that actually goes to the projects themselves, or at least the infrastructure around those projects, in order to make sure those projects are connecting to the city grid. Another way to look at it is you've seen this type of profile of large projects being built downtown. Where you see the green is where developers have literally signaled that they want to add what we call more density to their projects, more units, more room, more revenue. As a result of them paying into those fees, you can see at the bottom where that 20% goes to adopt the landmarks and to the infrastructure around their projects. But where you look to the right, these are where those dollars are allocated to go by ordinance. It's not that we decided to go here. We actually had an ordinance designed and passed that says that 80% that comes out of these resources actually go into southwest and southwest sides of the city of Chicago. And so Nina talked very cleverly about, what's eligible and what's not. And for us, it's strictly commercial property. So it's commercial property owners, commercial tenants, nonprofit organizations, because we also want to support those organizations that are supporting the small business community. We want to certainly support local entrepreneurs. So we really put an emphasis and a priority on local development and local entrepreneurs activating some of the storefronts in our community. But she also talked about what's ineligible. And, her analogy of if you can pick that building up and turn it upside down and shake it, yep, what falls out is usually ineligible for our program. If it sticks to the bones of that property, that is something that we're willing to work with. And even in the case, we've had a number of restaurants come to the table looking to be supported by this program. And even some of the equipment that's associated with bringing those restaurants online is also eligible for the NOF program. So as you can see, we're targeting a certain type of profile. It's retail, it's culture, it's nonprofits. To date, we've actually did $8.5 million of commitment to 23 projects this year. We've attacked 14 Invest South and West corridor projects, and 80% of our projects are people of color, and we want to continue to support that. Our objectives, again, local entrepreneurs, resources to the communities. We want to help build capacity for local developers, and we want to use this program as a wealth building opportunity. In other words, when you get a chance to get spotted with one of these programs, that's money that doesn't have to come out of your resources. And as a result, it gives you a tremendous opportunity to build wealth. Geography matters here. So that illustration that I showed you before, this is a more articulate version of that illustration. We actually chose these through doing a scientific look at communities that, where we looked at vacancy rates, we looked at percentage of individuals below the poverty line, percentage of individuals on public assistance, unemployment, educational attainment rates. We wanted to make sure that these areas were selected very carefully so we knew where to target our resources. And if you go online to our website at chicago.gov/NOF at the bottom, you can see where we're prioritizing the NOF small program. The large program has a slightly different geography. The small program is focused on corridors. So you are either going to find yourself on one of the eligible corridors, priority corridors, or Invest South and West corridors in order to be selected for this particular program. And even if you're not sure which one of the corridors you may fall on our website, there's an active map where you can actually type in your address and it will instantly tell you if you're eligible for the program. So I talked a little bit about how grantees are selected. And I think this is where I'm going to deviate a little bit from the community development grant. Nina gave you a good framework in terms of, what we're trying to do, which is provide, I think, unprecedented amount of resources for small businesses here in the city. But what I am also proud of what we're doing across the board at our department is really helping Chicagoans, really helping folks who are entrepreneurs, who are getting into the development game, if you will, how to be better at connecting to these resources. So we do strongly suggest that we're targeting shovel-ready projects. And many people always ask, well, what does that mean? Well, one of the first things it means is that we're looking for projects that are ready today. You know, we understand how programming matters. It matters to us. I know it matters to you as an individual, as an entrepreneur. But what we're mostly concerned about is not only those catalytic projects, but those catalytic projects that are ready today. How quickly can that applicant start their project because they have done the due diligence necessary to do so? You know, one of the things that also comes up about site control. Yes, if you are still working through negotiations with an owner of a building, if you're still working through negotiations through a landlord, we will still accept your application. However, I want to be clear. What we're doing is that you as an applicant who demonstrate you're ready today because you've done your due diligence, because you have site control, you have a deed, you have a lease, you're ready to go. Your project is going to get prioritized over those projects that are still negotiating. And I'm sure there's going to be some questions regarding that, but I want to make sure that's clear. We are still taking those applications, but we don't want to have your application sitting on the sideline while we wait for another application to finish their negotiation, and you've already demonstrated that your site control and your programming is something that fits our program. Financial feasibility is another one. Can an applicant demonstrate funds to cover their portion of the project? Nina's project says we got 75% of your total eligible project cost. Well, in your application, we're looking for you to demonstrate that that other 25% is there and liquid and ready to go. Our program, and I'm going to talk about this in a few slides from now, we start at 50% of that total eligible cost. We can actually get up to 100%. And I'm going to talk about that later. But if we do, we need applicants to demonstrate that that other 50% is there so we can go ahead and get your project done. Construction plan simply signals to the department that you've thought about this, that you've had some people look at your project and give you costs, and that you have a good idea on what it's going to take to get your project to the finish line. We reward that effort. We look towards finding projects that demonstrate that type of due diligence so we can select them as a finalist. And then catalytic impact. At the end of the day, it has to be a project where there's been some socialization of what you want to bring to the corridor, what you want to bring to the community, and that the community is in agreement with you, either through plans that they've constructed, either through conversations that you've had with community-based organizations or elected officials. There is some congruity in terms of what you're going to be providing to that particular corridor. So the grantee process looks like this. If you are selected after all the applications have been reviewed, you become what we call a finalist. And that finalist means, yep, we like what you put on the application, we like what you've signaled, but we are still going to do some due diligence once we select you. In other words, you say you've got site control, we need you to demonstrate the deed or that lease in order to demonstrate that. You say you're liquid with that 25 or that 50%, but we're going to need you to demonstrate that that is indeed the case in terms of, somebody's ringing my bell, guys. Sorry about that. I don't think that's ever happened. We need you to demonstrate that. There is an economic disclosure form. Don't ask me to explain that thing. It is something that everybody who does business with the city of Chicago actually has to complete. That needs to be completed for our program as well. Once you go through those steps, and we have that clearly articulated along with expected timelines, then you become what we call a grantee, in which we give you a letter demonstrating how much of that grant, based on the costs that you've demonstrated within that due diligence, what you will be eligible for the grant program. Once you get that letter, you have 12 to 18 months to finish your project. We have many folks who complete their projects well within that time, sometimes incredibly early. But what we want to do is we understand that some projects, as with all projects, have some issues, have gremlins. And so we want to make sure there's enough allocated time for your project to get to the finish line. And then once you've completed your project, you are an alumni now. And what we want to make sure that you do is help you maintain your business. And in addition to what I didn't signal on here, we actually want you to look back and look at some of the other finalists that are coming behind you and help them get to the finish line as well. So I talked about the baseline. So I'm going to go through this, and I want to make it simple because one of the things we're trying to do is to uncomplicate this process. So if you look at the yellow bar here, that's a project where the eligible cost came up to actually $250,000. That's an anomaly. It usually doesn't work that way. But for our purposes, 100% of the eligible cost is $250,000. The way the program works, as a base, if you are qualified and selected, we give you up to half of that $250,000. I believe is, I can't even think now. $125,000. Now, if you have signaled within your application that you are looking to hire, that you are living within one of the geographies of the Invest South and West program, we will actually have you be eligible for an additional 25% of that total project cost. If you signal also that you will hire within the community, and you do so at the end of your project, we will still be able to support your project with an additional 25% of eligible costs. And in this case, that 25% will come from you actually paying a local resident to work at your particular project. So what we have here in the middle, and why we've got this grantee portion, is because this comes after the fact. That 25% is after you hire, after you've paid an individual up to that 25% amount, then we can come back and reimburse you for that 25% that you actually paid for. But if you look at this bar at $250,000, there is a path here where we can support your project in its entirety, given that it fit this type of profile. And the way we do that is because you are not only bringing a Catalytic project to your community, but you're also hiring locally as well. So I think I went over that pretty carefully. I think the bar does a better job than this narrative. Again, there's an additional 25% that you can be supported with this project above and beyond that 50% if you live within that geography. And then there's an additional 25% that can be provided if you demonstrate that you've hired locally after your project is completed. One of the things that I also want to highlight and that I want to encourage everyone on the call to do is to go to the Department of Planning's website. We have a ton of information. You can get lost in there, but I think in a good way, because I think we've got some good content, good resources that you as entrepreneurs need to be aware of and to get curious about. Part of what we want to do is to make sure and understand that you're not going to get all this in one setting. You're not going to necessarily land with all the information that we have on that site. That's why we've got people within the department to assist and to be able to ask you your specific questions. So how do you apply? You can go to our city's website, chicago.gov/DPD. Summer Corps, which is our city partner that helps us with our administration of the program, is another resource. Just getting to the Department of Planning resources, I think you are going to find that you not only connect to this program, but many others. And with that, I am going to turn it back over. I believe my colleague, Nora Curry, is going to walk you through the Spiff program. This is my contact information. I'm sure that everybody's going to get a copy of this deck once we're done. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to meeting many of you somewhere down the line. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nora Curry. I'm the director of the Spiff program, and I'm just going to share my screen, and then we'll get started. Okay, can folks see my screen?
Yes, Nora, we can.
Great, thank you, Jim.
Yep.
Okay, terrific. So again, my name is Nora Curry. I'm the program director for the Spiff program here at the Department of Planning and Development, and I'm going to talk about the third of our small grant programs for businesses, and it is the Small Business Improvement Fund, or what's known as the Spiff program. And the Spiff program is the old lady of the three. Spiff has been around since 1999, over 20 years. And the good news about that is we know what we're doing. We've been doing this a while. And we have made over 1,700 grants to businesses over those 20 years, excuse me, and distributed over $100 million over the city of Chicago. The SBIF program provides non-competitive grants to small businesses and property owners to make permanent building improvements similar to NOF and the recovery grants, but again, non-competitive. The grants go up to $150,000 for commercial properties and $250,000 for industrial properties. We can reimburse up to 90% of eligible costs. So our eligible applicants, to be eligible for the program, first of all, the property must be in a tax increment financing district where SBIF funds are available, and the SBIF is authorized to accept applications. So a tax increment financing district is a special area where we are capturing the funds to reinvest, capturing real estate taxes to reinvest into the community there. And that's where we get the funding for the Small Business Improvement Fund from the TIF there. So, and then we will open up the application for 30-day periods for SBIF. That information is on our website. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And you have to apply within that 30-day period in order to be eligible to receive the funds. Other eligibility criteria: you need to be a landlord of a commercial or industrial property. You can be a business owner that you can own or lease the property. You can be a tenant, again, leasing the property with prior written approval from the property owner. You can be an existing business or start a business. About 75% of our applicants are existing, 25% then would be startups. And you can be a for-profit or a nonprofit business. We do have limits on how large a business you can be. Commercial tenants can be up to $9 million in gross sales. Landlords can have up to $9 million revenue or net worth, net worth, and 500,000 liquid assets per individual owner. And industrial companies can have 200 employees or fewer. All of those people qualify for the Small Business Improvement Fund. So again, I mentioned the maximum grant amounts for single tenant commercial, it's $150,000. For multi-tenant commercial, it's $250,000 with $75,000 per tenant. For industrial businesses, it's $250,000, and then we limit in multi-tenant industrial $100,000 per tenant. Our grants are paid by reimbursement. So you would finance the project and then we would reimburse you after the project is done. We can pay that reimbursement in phases, however. So if you have a $150,000 grant and you do, you're approved for all of that, you can do $50,000 worth of the work, turn in all those documents and for a voucher, and we can pay you for that $50,000, and then you can continue with the rest of the project if you want to break up the project in that way. In terms of eligibility, the smaller the business you are or property owner, the more you are eligible to receive from the Small Business Improvement Fund. So I said you can earn up to $9 million a year and be eligible for SBIF. If you earn up to just $3 million a year, you're eligible for 90% reimbursement from the program. If you earn $3 to $6 million a year, you're eligible for 60% reimbursement. 6 to 9, 30% reimbursement. Over 90% of our recipients, of our participants in the program, are eligible for that 90% reimbursement. We really have a sweet spot within that small business community. For industrial projects, if you're an industrial project, you're at 50% reimbursement no matter what. Okay, so how do you find out if you if you can apply for SPIF. First of all, you have to make sure that you're in a TIF, and you have to find out when that TIF is open, is going to have a SPIF that's open for applications. So you go to our website. That website is at the bottom of this page on the lower left-hand side, SPIF website, chicago.gov/SPIF. Again, stands for Small Business Improvement Fund. Sometimes people spell it with a P because it sounds like spiffy, but it's business, Small Business Improvement Fund. And you'll get this handsome fellow, and you go right to, you go to the top, as for SPIF eligibility, click here to use the SPIF locator tool. And the next thing you'll see is this site. You enter your address in the upper left-hand corner, and you will see your address on the map. Hopefully you will see it within a red boundary, such as the one on this map, which means that it's on a TIF. You'll get a message at the top that says this property is located in the TIF it's located in, as well as a target corridor. So this says this property is located in the 107th Halsted TIF. It's also in a target corridor, which is an additional priority area. And it also tells you who your delegate agencies are, in that area. That the delegate agencies are local nonprofit organizations who help businesses in the area. The city pays them. We have contracts with them to help our businesses to do all kinds of things to do business better in the city, to help them with their businesses. And one of those things is to apply to the SPIF program. So they help us market the SPIF program. They help you fill out the application. They help answer questions about that application, all kinds of things like that, and just connect you to things. And then later on in the process, connect you to getting your permits and all those sort of things. So that's what you'll see there. So let's talk about what kind of businesses are eligible for SPIF. This is a little bit different from the other two grants. Most businesses are eligible for SPIF, but so we mostly talk about what's not eligible. And similar to the other ones, we don't fund residential properties, including home-based businesses. We can fund a mixed use building. So if you've got a typical Chicago ground floor retail and then residential above, that's fine. We'll work with you on the ground floor retail. We just can't pay for the renovation of the apartments inside, but we can help you with the outside, with tuck pointing maybe on the outside of the building. We cannot assist chain and franchise businesses. We cannot assist liquor stores, tobacco stores, adult uses, private clubs, churches, residential storage warehouses. You can read the list. There are some additional ones that are not on here, but for the most part, we can help most other kinds of businesses. We're really concentrating on ground floor, retail, and of course, industrial can vary a little bit. We have a few exceptions to that, but we're really trying to impact the street, what's on the street. So what kind of projects can you do? Permanent improvements to existing buildings. So similar to what everybody else has said, if you pick up the building and shake it, what comes out, not eligible. So facade improvements and storefront replacements. You can see Brewer Coffee on this picture. They're on 79th Street, made a beautiful change in this building with a nice storefront. Permanent interior renovations, roof repairs. We do a ton of roofs, ramps for ADA compliance, lots of plumbing and electrical, and really nuts and bolts rehab of buildings that people need. It's not comprehensive. We unfortunately cannot do things like landscaping, fencing, outdoor patios, but if that's part of your project, we'll fund the other stuff that we can fund, and then you can put some more money into those things that we cannot fund. Again, what's not eligible? No new construction, no expansions. We can rehab an existing building. We can't build a new building. We can't do just pretty things that aren't part of a larger project. Again, no outdoor dining, fencing. We cannot fund equipment. We cannot construct a parking lot for you. No residential, no landscape. So generally, a few of our rules. Meeting our deadlines is important because we are non-competitive. So the deal with SPIF is we are following an ordinance. As long as you apply for the program within the set time and you follow all of our rules and you are eligible and we have enough money, we will fund all the applicants we get. But it is really important, so that is great. It is really important that that applicants meet all of the program deadlines, because we often will have a waiting list for the money. So we need to abide by those program deadlines that's set by ordinance. So that's really important. We are following Chicago neighborhood design guidelines. That is extremely important throughout the city. And that's available on our website. We'll have more guidance on that, but essentially we want to make sure that the rehab that you do to the building has an equally good impact on the neighborhood that your building is in. Commercial projects with grants above $25,000 have to actually do an exterior improvement with using about 10% of their SBIF, at least 10% of their SBIF grant. All of our projects have to have permits. All of them have to show proof of financing. All of them have to clear any city debt before they can move forward with a project. All of that said, we also, like the NOF program, use a program administrator for a program. They are called Summer Corps. They are very happy to help you with all of this. They will be your day-to-day interaction with the program. And we know that there are a lot of things that people run into in a program. I'm going to share with you our schedule, another successful program in Woodlawn to the right. We have stages of our program, and in the old days, our projects usually would take 18 months. Things have been significantly slower over the last several years, and now they're estimating around 24 months. Some of our projects have really slowed down, and our average has gone down because of COVID, because of the lack of supplies, because of lack of people to work on them. So we know that those exist. So what I always say to people is keep your project manager at Summer Corps informed. Always keep in touch. People will sometimes, they'll see these problems happening and they'll sort of shut down or say, pretend it's not happening, or say, like, I'm not going to tell Summer Corps, I don't want to get in trouble, or they don't want to tell the city, I don't want to tell us, and we will work with you. But essentially, how the stages work is you apply within the 30-day period, then we ask for more documentation based on what kind of applicant you are, and we make sure that you, the applicant, are eligible based on our rules. Once we know that you are eligible, we establish your level of funding, what the reimbursement level is, and then we look at your project and the design and make sure all of that is eligible and help you. You get your bids, you turn in your renderings, you start working with your permits. At that point, and then you pay off your debts and all of those things, that if you have any city tickets or something like that. Then you move into the construction. That's a 10-month process. And once your construction is done, you turn in your vouchers for reimbursement. Just an example here of one of the projects up on the north side that transformed this empty storefront into a lovely bakery cafe. And then we're back to the website, because I want to show you how to register for our how to find, first of all, our rollout calendar and how to register for our webinars. We post on our rollout calendar on our website. As I said, we have 30-day rollout periods. We roll out about four or five new SBIF areas every month. We are opening new areas. We had 69 areas open last year. We have 53 open this year. I anticipate we'll have more than 50 open next year. So we're rolling around in there all over the city, as I said. We have funding in, I think, 84 different TIF areas. So keep an eye on where the SBIF is available. More than likely, we're going to be in your area soon enough. So we keep a regular schedule. You can go back to chicago.gov/SBIF, check our rollout calendar. You can see if you know where you are already, if you've already gone to eligibility and found where you are. It should say when the rollout is. You can also check the rollout calendar. You can click on these, it'll show you a map, but you can also register. If you click right there where that red arrow is, for our next webinar. And they are the first Wednesday of every month. You can register. You can also go back to an old one and check the video from a past webinar. And so every month we are talking about SBIF, and you can get detail. Okay, and then I want to leave you with the SBIF contacts. So my name is there on the left-hand side, second, Nora Curry, Program Director, and my contact info. is my email, and then down below is my contact number. Also, Summer Corps on the right. Sylvia Orozco, the director, speaks Spanish. And all of these folks can help. You can send an email directly to spiff@summercorps.com and call the general number. Anybody there is delighted to help you. They are all about business assistance, often arguing with us to make things go faster, not slower. So we're really there to try and help you as much as we can. So please take a look at Spiff. We are eager to help. I will stop there, and why don't we start taking questions? Stella, do we want to answer them in the chat, or are you going to open it up for folks?
I can assist you with questions.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. Okay, we can start in the Q&A box. What if I don't have a building yet? Still looking for a building to open the center or a shelter. How do I proceed?
You're on mute, Nina. You're on mute.
Of course. Generally, I would say don't apply until you have a physical building, and maybe, I'm not saying for you to sign a lease, that's not what I'm saying, but you got to have an address for your application to even go through. So you wouldn't even be able to put in an application with all of our various grant applications without a physical address. And that physical address needs to be a project location. So you need to find a location, either that you're going to rent out, maybe get a letter of intent from, with the owner of the building or the property owner, upload that with your application so that we know that you're serious about a physical location. Do you need to own that? No, but you need to have some type of evidence that you have a physical location.
What's the most common mistake that you have seen applicants make during stages 2 and 3, as far as paperwork and permits go?
Oh, for Spiff? What happens a lot is with permits, people will apply for their permits and then they will not hear back for a long time, or they will hear something back, turn something in, not hear back. And they'll ask us for help with their permit number, and we'll go back and check. And more often than not, the Department of Buildings will come back and said, yeah, we responded to that months ago. It's been sitting here, nobody's responded to us. So what will happen a lot is the business will rely on their whoever they're working with, the architect, the general contractor, who's telling them they haven't gotten a response, but actually the general contractor is busy doing something else, or didn't notice, or forgot, or something. So it's important to really try and be on top, make sure what's happening with your project, unfortunately, because you'd like to be able to trust the people that you're working with, and you should trust the people you're working with, you should hire good people. But that's one thing that comes up quite a lot, actually, is delays.
Yeah, and if I can add something to that, because that's what a great question. One of the things that we found is that, there are many applicants who come through all of our programs who have experience doing development work, have experience doing construction work, but we also have many who don't. And so making sure you got the right support, the right professional help to help walk you through not only the construction piece of it, but also, there's another whole component in terms of doing business with the city, with things like permitting and making sure that, you are expediting that part of your project. Getting support is probably one of the most common mistakes, or lack of getting support, that we found.
What if your area is not listed for a rollout and a website says TIF closes December 2022? How do we get it to reopen?
Is there a specific tip? If the TIF is expiring, some TIFs do expire, such as Portage Park or Jefferson Park. Those are actually expiring. They are going away permanently at the end of the year. There isn't much you can do about that, but you can talk to your alderman and see about getting extended. But those are ending. They are alive for 23 years, and then they sunset. However, the Spiffs are different. We have rollout, as I said, we have rollout, but usually about once a year, and we roll out every 30 days, or for 30 days, excuse me. You can contact us, and we could tell you when or if we plan to roll out again. Sometimes we have money in the pipeline and are planning to roll out again. You can look at the calendar and you might see that there's a plan to roll it out again next year, but usually it would be there when you look up the address. You can also contact your alder person and say, this is out of money, I would like some more, please, and they'll know that they can call us and ask us to refund the SBIF. But there are a few different ways to know. We can also put you on a list of interested parties, and we will let you know when the SBIF reopens. So there's a few different ways, but you can certainly contact me or someone to get the initial information about the area.
Can you apply for all of these grants for the same project?
You can apply for them, but you can't use them all at the same time. And we do encourage you to apply because you never know. And we want to make sure we're helping as many people as we can. You all should interrupt me if you want to say anything in addition. But we will be looking at, we'll compare notes and try to make sure that we don't want to fund the same actual work. I don't want to be funding the same storefront as Jim and Nina, right? We don't want to triple dip. We certainly want to support businesses in every way that we can. But if you've applied for SBIF and NOF, and SBIF can help you, but NOF doesn't have enough funding for you, that's where we want to catch you. But so you can apply for all of them. You will have to decide once you get approved for one, which one you're going to get. We'll take you out of the other programs.
And remember, we're all in the same department. So we know your addresses, we compare notes. So don't think you're getting over by applying at 3 different places or getting 3 different. And then also, since we're kind of moving towards a universal application between NOF and Community Development Grant and some other CRP grants that will come down the line, we actually geocode them up front. So there's no way that we would, like the CRP team would consider you and Jim would consider you, because if you're eligible for NOF, you're already in there. You're automatically placed in there, but that way you only have one place to apply. That we make it very easy for you, and we do all the work on the back end to say which pile of funds are you competing for. So that's the only thing I would add. But yeah, we compare notes. So yeah, we try to be as equitable with these resources as possible.
Yeah.
Do you have grants that help garment design manufacturers who are not looking for a building, but they do need help with funding their business?
The Department of Planning and Development is very much about the built environment. So a lot of our grants outside of workforce development have to do with brick and mortar. So if you're looking for something that is more about business, our colleagues at BACP have resources, DFSS has resources for the nonprofits and the social services. So, really think about the scope of work that each department does, and then try to go to that appropriate department for the resources that you need. You would, again, with the example of CDOT, you wouldn't come to us to get your street paved because that's not what we do, right? You would go to CDOT to get that done, or you wouldn't come to us to figure out how to, a train stop, right? That's CTA. So, just think about what you need and then try to go to that department. I did put a link in the chat of the Chicago Recovery Plan citywide website that has all the funding opportunities, and they update it literally daily, depending on which departments are putting out grant programs. So I would say copy and paste that, put it in your favorites and check it like at least once a week, because there's always opportunities on there from various departments across the city.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, Nina, part of what I would argue all of these programs are designed to do is to provide resources to, provide an opportunity to do that capital improvement on property. So you're freed up with resources in order to put it towards operations, if that makes sense.
I am also putting in the chat the website of the Local Industrial Retention Initiative program, which is an outreach program that the department funds for industrial companies. And we have 10 organizations that are there to help industrial companies, which sounds like you would be, with anything they need for growing their business within the city of Chicago. And they are often aware of what programs are available, which department to talk to, or if they're not, they know to call us and find out what that is. So they can do some of that legwork for you. I'm going to put that here in the chat.
If I apply for the Chicago Recovery Plan Community Development and Neighborhood Opportunity Fund grant, does the third group find out at the end of the year? Can the applicant be outside the NOF map for that grant?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Yeah, it's a long one.
Okay.
If I applied for the Chicago Recovery Plan Community Development and Neighborhood Opportunity Fund grant, does the third group find out at the end of the year? And can the
yes,
applicant be outside
you
the
should.
NOF map for that grant?
Can I provide a map? So I will, so all of our grantees, so I guess, let me answer the first part of the question. Though, if you applied in the August 19th round for NOF or for CDG, you will hear back in early December of if you will receive that grant or not. And then we do have a map. If I understand your second question, we have a map on the CRP website of where all of our grantees are. I'm not sure if you're looking for if you're eligible for NOF on the NOF website, like that Jim mentioned, you can put your address there to find out if you're in an eligible corridor. So if you're trying to do that, hopefully I understood your question right, but either way, it's definitely on both of our websites, the location of our current grantees, or if you're eligible for a grant.
Yeah, and Nina, you're right. And you know, sometimes it's a little tricky on our site because if you're going after the NOF grant, what it's going to say when you type in your address is if you're not on one of our eligible priority or invest south and west corridors, if the address doesn't show up on one of those corridors, it's going to say, nope, you're not eligible. However, you got to keep reading because at the bottom of it say, but you, however, could be eligible for the NOF large grant program. We're very specific to corridors for the small grant program, but the large program is a little bit of a larger geography, and that website and that interactive map will be able to be clear about whether you are in one of those priority corridors or whether you are in what we call a qualified investment area, which would qualify you for the NOF large program.
Where does the Spiff funds come from? Our project was selected and we received the spot after random Excel drawing for 71st and Stony Island, but there was only $350,000 available in comparison to the Bronzeville TIF that had approximately $3 million available.
Yeah. The Spiff money comes from the tax increment financing district. Those are those special taxing districts that are funds that are real estate taxes that are reinvested into the communities within those boundaries. And unfortunately, in the 71st and Stony Island area TIF district, we were only funded for $350,000 in the last time. And I know we have a huge waiting list there, and I'm sorry that you're on that waiting list. The good news is that we have actually today introduced an ordinance requesting additional funding in 46 of our SPIFs, one of which is the 71st and Stony Island TIF, because of that great response that we got. So, you know, sometimes it really had to do with how much money was available within that tax increment financing area. It has to do with how many taxes they're collecting and what the other projects are. And, you know, there's other things going on in that community. So, but we did ask for additional money. It's going to, so it just got introduced. City Council, the Finance Committee will hear it next month. And hopefully, knocking wood, it'll get approved. And we can start working on that waiting list. We will not take any more applications until we've worked through the waiting list. The waiting list is good for 2 years. And hopefully we'll get to your and everybody else's project, because we got tremendous interest in that area. And we're so excited. We wanted to fund 71st and Stony Island for 20 years. It was one of the first ones we got authority for. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to help you soon.
Does commercial include mixed use commercial with apartments at the top of the business?
And that's called mixed use. So there's commercial, which just usually has like a certain type of uses, which is like business oriented. Then you have mixed use where you have a mix of housing and commercial. And then you have just housing. And then you have industrial where you're like making things. So yeah, what you're describing is called mixed use.
I have a nonprofit called Inner City Music Academy. We need funding for our program. We also pay our staff, so we need all available resources. Is there any way that you can email me the resources? We also have a license with the city of Chicago.
I think you're going to get this presentation, so that's probably all you need from us. And then, of course, we encourage you to, seek out other grants and resources. I know it takes you're all business owners. It does take a bit of due diligence. So I think this presentation is probably enough information, at least from DPD side. But we encourage you to definitely look at the other funding resources throughout the city.
I also really
yeah.
encourage you to work with BACPs, and maybe you're about to say this, Stella, that suggest working with BACP's delegate agencies. The neighborhood business development centers are very helpful, and they're there to help you. There are all kinds of them, and they're in your communities. There are the local chambers of commerce and business development centers. There are also citywide folks like Women's Business Development Center, different small business development centers who specialize in business planning, and they have a lot of information they can help you with at all stages of your business and all kinds of things that you're trying to do. So they can help you put together not just what you need for the city, but they're also aware of other state funding and individual grants and things like that. So they're really great resources.
Should also look into DCASE. DCASE does a lot with art and cultural programs. They have a lot of grants.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback on what Nora said. Part of what I think you are all hearing from all of us, that there's a litany of resources out there to help support you and help even guide you through our application processes, but particularly the community-based organizations across the city. They're probably one of the most unutilized resources you have out there. Most of those services are free, if not all of them, and they are there to support. They're there to help you understand kind of what your project is, how to articulate it, how to connect to not only our departments, but other departments across the city.
This is a really good question. I own a firearm safety training company. I want to build a facility that allows learning with non-lethal ammunition. The site will also be designed to accommodate the public, law enforcement, school security, and public security training. Is this a project that the grant program would support?
That's a hard one. Definitely look at the eligibility criteria for each of our programs. We are more commercial facing and economic impact, and also thinking about the services that different communities need. So yeah, and then I will also make sure that whatever location you're looking at actually has the zoning authority, because we also don't change the zoning. So you have to pick a location that would actually allow that use before you can even come to us and ask for money, because we don't approve things that our zoning administrator wouldn't wouldn't allow in a certain area. Jim, I don't know. I've never dealt with a firearm, but yeah, I guess if it's eligible, you could apply. That doesn't, the social impact score may not.
No, you handled that beautifully, by the way.
Okay.
But I am going to add to it. One, there's a zoning issue that would need to be addressed, which implies that you have to socialize that programming with the local elected official. And then on top of that, one of the things that we take very seriously is the type of programming that communities are asking for. And so, part of, and again, I think I signaled this in the beginning of my application. We're going to accept most applications. We'll take them. We're not going to reject you. But what we're going to do is prioritize projects. We're going to prioritize projects that are ready. We're going to prioritize projects that have signaled a vetting process, like zoning. That particular program is going to require somebody to come to the table doing a lot of homework. And so, will we look at that? Absolutely. Yeah. And then, and again, I'm gonna err on the side of ignorance. I'm going to suggest that I don't fully understand kind of what that programming will be and its impact to the community. So I suggest make the argument, do the due diligence, put together your application and make the argument.
I am a licensed general contractor. I just purchased an old church that I want to convert to a restaurant/music venue. Could I be my own contractor if I was awarded the grant?
In the Spiff program, our applicants cannot serve as their own general contractor, but we would probably make an exception for someone who is actually an existing licensed general contractor for real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can jump on that one too. We're paying a lot of attention to capacity in terms of doing construction work. Our data suggests that most finalists, most people who are selected need support.
Yeah.
They need to have that unbiased contractor. You know, all of our programs require you to have multiple bids on your project, so we know we're getting at the real cost of your particular project. Serving as your own general contractor is not something that we're not going to accept. And again, we're going to accept most applications, but we're going to prioritize those projects that demonstrate that they have done enough due diligence to signal to us that they're ready. So yeah, serving as your own general contractor wouldn't negate you from our program, but we're going to be looking at that amongst other applicants who are doing things a little differently. We're going to be looking at them all. Maybe that's the best way I can say it.
Do you support cannabis businesses?
This is a good one. Jim, I don't remember where we landed on this. They can apply, but that doesn't, like, they're not ineligible, but that doesn't mean that they would, you know, get a grant. So yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the easy thing to say here is that make the argument. You know, when the grant application opens up, put together your application and make your argument. We're asking everyone, by the way, not just the cannabis businesses,
Right.
Make compelling arguments.
Yeah.
The application is designed, we think, to help you articulate as much articulation as you need to make your argument, because you're competing. You know, all of these grant programs, Spiff is a little differently, but even Spiff is competing to a certain degree because there's, in many cases, only a certain amount of resources for a certain amount of projects. Make your argument. We will look at them. There's people who read your application and there's multiple eyes that look at it. And so, yeah, make the argument. We certainly will take a look at it.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Jim. You actually right. Yeah, make the argument. You're not ineligible, so apply and make the argument.
They're asking for you to repost the link.
Okay, I will post it for a fourth time. I've been posting it. I posted it like 2 minutes ago. Okay, posting it.
Webinar is being recorded and you can watch it probably, I'm gonna say by Monday. And if you go to our YouTube page, that's youtube.com/Chicago BACP. Let's see if it's some more questions. If a business is located within a church, however, is not affiliated with the church, will the business be considered eligible?
For the Spiff program, yes, if it's totally separate, it's not part of the worship area. It has its own corporate information. Yeah, and it's legitimately running another business.
Yeah, our short answer is yes, it will be considered. But again, I'm sounding like a broken record. You know, we still need to hear the argument on how it's going to be catalytic to the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I should say, as long as it qualifies for Spiff in other ways.
Oh yeah.
That's always my caveat.
Right, and yeah, it does have to be a commercial use, and churches can go in a few different areas. So as long as the commercial use, or I guess whatever use you have is allowed where that church is, then yes, you can apply.
are getting a lot of questions about the link for the Chicago Recovery Grant. I just posted it.
I was gonna say, am I not? It's not. Oh, I've been posting the link in the wrong place. Wow.
So I just
Wow.
posted it.
I'm so sorry, guys. I posted this link 1,000 times, and I'm like, why not people seeing the link? Now I understand. I was posting the wrong place. That is YouTube. Everybody, it's me. Sorry. It's been a long day.
Doesn't look like we have. Dina, how many links did you refer? They're on
I
you.
posted I posted a good amount of links. So let me try to quickly. I'm gonna try to do it all in really quickly, and just repost them to everyone. I was posting to a small group. There's the recovery homepage. Thank you. Okay. And then the one that I really want y'all to have, hold on one second, is the city's funding website, which I think will answer a lot of you all's questions. And here it is. Human error. I feel so silly. Thank you for doing that. I did not. I'm like, I'm posting this 1,000 times. What's going on? That's my fault. Okay. So yeah, so the last one I just posted is the one of all the city's opportunities. And then the first one I post, or that was reposted, is the department's CRP website.
I see a new question. Oh, they're coming in. They're moving really fast. Can opening a community center be eligible for SBIF?
I would have to think about, I honestly don't think so, but we'd have to look into that because we do help nonprofits. Depends what the uses are. We'd have to apply and let's see. I'm not sure.
Yeah, one of the things that I think Nina and her team has done a great job at is, taking away the mystery out of wondering what's eligible for what program. The ideal of a universal application takes the mystery out of it. We will be able to compartmentalize, for lack of a better way of saying it, which grant program is a better fit for your particular project. Because there are some nuances to all of our programs that we have to pay very, very close attention to. So, the idea of us evolving into a more universal approach to applications is going to help a little bit with that, if that's helpful.
Will there be a link for the SBIF application? For example, December 2022, can I start the application ahead of time?
Yeah, you can always get the SBIF application at Summer Corps' website. And we are working on, I'm going to put it in the chat. Let me just find it for you. We are working on making that an online application right now. It's a fillable PDF that you have to, you can email into Summer Corps, but you do have to fill it as PDF. Back to where it is. Yeah. And there are lots of other resources on this page as well. But yeah, we will put it onto, it's gonna sometime soon be available as part of the universal. So the first, that first one is that whole page that also has where it says click to see the application. The second link I just posted takes you straight to the application. It's a big nasty link, but it's a very simple initial application for SBIF. It's just 3 pages. Asks you some very basic questions about yourself and about your business and your property, and get you in the door with the application. It is important though that you know what TIF you're in and that you apply specifically when it is open. We cannot accept your application when if it's before or after that application period. It has to be during that application period. So do keep an eye on that. And again, you can contact Summer Corps and tell them that you're interested in SBIF, and they will contact you when the application is opening.
It looks like we have time for 2 more or 3 more questions. Does the Spiff program cover a new kitchen build out?
The Spiff program? Yeah, we can cover and I think this is probably true of all of us, that we can cover the infrastructure of it. We can do the HVAC build out, the plumbing, the electrical that supports the kitchen. We could do the ventilation. We can probably even do the hood. What we can't do is the equipment of the kitchen. We can't do the stove, the cabinetry, all of the equipment that goes in the kitchen, the blacktop, I think they call it. That is stuff you can take out and walk away with. It's really heavy, but you can. But the things that actually are physically part of the building, yes, we can help with that.
What is the timeline? Okay, it's jumping around. 1 second. What is the timeline for the Department of Planning launching a universal application? 3 applications are submission process. Seems very confusing. Seems like a lot of work.
So the NOF and CDG applications are already universal on our website. There's a large universal and there's a small universal. The large universal stays open because they also consider TIF inquiries and tax abatements, things like that. The small track does open and close. So the small track is not open right now because we just closed it August 19th. We will open it back up in mid-December for our 2023 rounds. And as Nora mentioned, our team is working on getting a lot of these applications onto Submittable so that it is easier for you. So we hear you. And that's why we've been able to combine them. It's just we've been kind of doing it in iterations so that we can make sure that it works and it makes sense.
I just started a nonprofit business to assist low to moderate income families with housing. We plan on using existing land to have manufactured homes installed. Can you recommend what resources will be available for this project, if any?
I suggest you call our colleagues at the Department of Housing. Brian Esselberg is one of the managing deputies over there at the Department of Housing and oversees their CRP funding. So that would be the resource that I would suggest that you follow up with.
That concludes all of our questions for today. I'm quite sure our panelists will be more than willing to answer any more additional questions that you may have. So you can just send them an email. Panelists, do you have any words of encouragement for our attendees today? Final words of encouragement.
The future of Chicago's recovery, I mean, at least from my vantage point, is in your hands. We have money to give out and we usually want to do it. They just got to be eligible. They have to be good projects. And I think what Jim said earlier about making your argument, making it very clear, make our jobs easy to select you. And that's all we want to do is be able to give out as much money in the best way possible, in the most equitable way possible. So I would say that that's it. And then, if you need help with your applications, although our teams don't help with the applications because that would be a conflict of interest because we also choose the grantees, we do rely heavily on our business centers through BACP to help you with those applications. So don't be afraid to seek out those resources to submit, very good, solid applications that makes decision making much easier for us.
Nora, did you want to add anything?
I'm waiting for you to add. You're always the one with the best.
I am going to add one thing. I heard someone mention in the chat about there's confusion about should I go after Spiff, should I go after CRP, should I go after NOF? I would suggest that one of the best practices that we've seen to date is for applicants to go after putting together solid applications. Going after a solid application that answers a lot of the questions that we raised talking about our individual programs, you're going to get everybody's attention over here. We're looking for applications that are buttoned up, that have done that due diligence, that get us talking, if you will. And so chasing that you know, we have the harder job then of trying to figure out where to put applicants like that, if that makes sense. So yeah, putting together a great application is what I would strongly suggest.
Okay, Nora, you have anything?
No, I'm just sitting here nodding. I totally agree with Jim. Work on your business, work on your business plan, and the best project you can do, and we will help you find the way to do it.
Okay, well, thank you again to Nora, Jim, and Nina for today's presentation. Again, this webinar will be posted on our YouTube page. Please visit youtube.com/Chicago BACP. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. Again, our email address is bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org to receive credit for today's attendance. Thank you.
Thank you.